All right, so in the last video, we actually discussed some of the signs that you might be an introverted leader. And today, what I want to do is discuss how you can thrive as an introverted leader. Because let's be for real, a lot of the advice and the examples that we have out there are primarily for extroverts, right? And so I don't want you to feel like you're alone or you don't have what you need to feel fully supported as an introverted manager. And so today I want to discuss just some of the things that I've picked up as an introvert myself that has really helped me be super effective as a manager and really level up in my leadership capacity. And so if that sounds like something that you are interested in learning more about, definitely tap on that like and subscribe button and let's get started. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new around here, well, my name is Mac, and I'm a leadership coach, but I actually work specifically with first-time team managers and helping them to become super competent and confident leaders. So like I mentioned, we're talking about how to thrive as an introverted leader. And I really wanted to do this topic because I work with a lot of introverted leaders, and I myself am an introverted manager, and I've had to learn how to navigate the waters in order to be truly effective. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've picked up on and what's helping my students as they continue to level up in their career as introverted managers. So one of the first things that I had to learn, stepping into management is that there is power in leaning into your strengths. And yes, I know that the examples that we have out there of a strong, confident leader looks like the extrovert, right? The person who's super charismatic or the person that loves to have like the spotlight on them, who can be at the front of the room, who's, really comfortable in public speaking and they're excellent communicators, all this stuff, right? That is the example that we have. And it's really easy to discount yourself if you're not comfortable in those areas, right? Like if that's not part of your character, if that's not part of who you are, it can be like you could get a little bit discouraged is basically what I'm saying, because I didn't necessarily see myself that way either, right? Like a lot of my fellow managers, like the managers within the team, weren't like me. I was super quiet, a little bit reserved. And so I felt kind of like, oh, I don't know that this role is for me because I'm not like that. And I think that like really, like I said, discouraged me for a really long time until I realized that I had tremendous potential if I could just lean into what I'm actually good at. So let me give you an example. One of the things that as introverts we are really, really good at is listening. We listen better than anybody else. And so if we can lean into that, it actually helps us to be effective because we become people that can respond rather than react. People who don't listen tend to react based on emotions or based on just like the flavor of the day. But because we are listeners as introverts, we can actually really make wise decisions because we're listening, right? We're taking the time to process and think through things before jumping into action. So this is what I mean when I say you got to lean into your strengths. So with that being said, I want you to think about what your strengths are as an introvert and then be committed to leaning into that. Don't try and be someone else. Don't try and be what you're not. I always tell the students, like, don't carry around that picture of an ideal manager in your back pocket and condemn yourself when you don't reach that picture, right? Just try and be the best that you can be by leaning into your strengths that makes you so special. And I promise you, you will be effective. Speaking of which, if you're watching this video, then I'm going to assume that you're also an introverted leader yourself, in which case I want you to know that I've actually built a community just for you. Because of the fact that I'm an introvert myself and I've had to navigate, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, a very highly visible role as an introvert, I know what it's like when you feel like you don't have the example and you don't necessarily have the resources and tools to really lead from a place that feels good for you. And so because of that, I'm very, very passionate about making sure that you are fully equipped and supported. And through my accelerator program, I work specifically with new managers that are introverted and helping them to go from being, indecisive, unsure of themselves, underconfident, reactive, to becoming that self-assured, very proactive leader that's able to communicate effectively so that it lands appropriately with those that they're talking to, right? And so if that's something that you're looking to get more help on, like if you really want to up-level your communication skills and you want to make sure that you feel self-assured and confident and competent in your role, definitely book a call with me using the link in the description box below to learn more about my accelerator program and how it can help you as well. My second tip, or the second thing that I've really leaned on, is making sure that there is buffer time throughout my calendar all the time. And so what I mean is, I'm sure you already know that as a manager, there's a lot of meetings that we have to be in, right? There's so many meetings. Like sometimes I just feel like my entire life was a meeting. But yeah, I used to feel like, oh my goodness, like every 20 seconds I have a meeting. Now that I'm a business owner, I have control over the amount of meetings I have, right? But back when I was in corporate, I was in a lot of meetings. So I want you to know I understand. And one of the things that I leaned on was making sure that there was like little gaps in my calendar so that I had enough time to just rejuvenate. I would make sure, like, as soon as someone scheduled a meeting on my calendar, I would always have like, I would immediately go into the calendar and schedule like 20, 30 minutes of buffer. And for sure, I would make sure that at the end of the day, I would have buffer time between like my last event and home time. So what I mean is, like, if the end of the day for you is, let's say 6 o'clock, let's say that's the end of your day, you want to make sure that nobody, not even your team member, can put time on your calendar after 5:30. So every day I want you to go into your calendar and make it like a standing arrangement that from 5:30 to 6 o'clock, you are blocked off and there is nothing anyone can do about it unless there's an emergency. And what that, helps you to do is make sure that between like your last event and home time, you're not feeling like so flustered, but you have a little bit of time to just like come to ease again. Because I know, right, as an introvert, we just need a little bit of time to like regain our energy a little bit. And so you want to make sure that you're working with that by adding in those buffer times within your calendar. And so that's something that has helped me, and it's definitely helping my accelerator students as well. I usually suggest about 15 to 30-minute buffer times if you can afford it. If you can't do a full 30 minutes, maybe 10 or 15, just enough time so that you can gather your thoughts, gather your energy so that you're good for the next thing. So my third tip in terms of how to really thrive as an introverted leader is to lean into the process rather than just the result. So, because of the fact that you're an introvert, you're most likely an incredibly fantastic observer. And so leverage that and make time to deep dive on the observations that you're making, right? Don't let the observation just be this thing that you observed once upon a time when you had a couple of seconds and then did nothing about. One of the best things that I have ever done was actually leveraging disciplined thinking time. I talk about this all the time on my channel, which is something that I learned from this book right here called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. And he talks about the fact that every week what he does is he sets aside some time to really think through, root causes from symptoms, right? And it helps him to put his observations into some sort of proactive action plan. And so, because of the fact that you're already such an amazing observer, take those observations and do something with it. Schedule that block of like disciplined thinking time in your calendar to see how you can improve processes and really pull those observations into action rather than it just staying up here. So my fourth tip in terms of how to thrive as an introverted leader is to really commit to being just 1% more comfortable with being visible as a leader. The truth of the matter is that as a manager, it is a highly visible role, right? Everyone's looking at you. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, right? Your boss is looking at you to see how you're doing. Your team members are looking at you to see how you're doing. Your fellow managers are looking at you. Like, that's just the honest truth. And what I've noticed is that as introverts, we tend to want to shy away from people looking at us, right? We don't want that. And while that's totally fine, one of the things I want to be super honest with you about is the fact that people who aren't seen are often forgotten. And so while I do understand that as introverts, we don't necessarily love to be in the spotlight, and that's not what I'm encouraging you to do. What I do want you to do is just try and commit to being 1% better, like let's say every week, in terms of how you can increase your visibility. So for example, if you are a remote manager, right? Instead of always having your camera off because you don't want to be seen, be the person that always has their camera on, right? If you are in a leadership meeting, make sure that you always have your camera on so that people know that you are someone that they should respect and someone that is credible and someone that has something to say, right? So those are the 4 things that have helped me incredibly as an introvert in a leadership position. I hope that you found this video helpful and valuable to you. And if you did, do give it a thumbs up and definitely subscribe so you don't miss out on content that I share here every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of the week, and I'll see you in the next one.